Hey everyone, Ronin here, and welcome back to the channel. Today we got some stuff to cover in What If I Wrote the Pokemon Anime. But before we get into that, we got some other things that we got to touch on. First things first, thank you very much to the patron Indigo Saturn 64. Your support is very much appreciated. And also, let's not forget about engagement. It's very important that you guys like the video and comment on them as much as possible, so that way it can gain as much traction and get to a larger audience. And also, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, that way you'll never miss an upload. But with all that being said, let's get into What If I Wrote the Pokemon Anime, Part 12. I hope you enjoy. We begin today's story with Ash as he arrives in Fuchsia City. It's been a long journey for our young trainer since he left the Fuchsia gym, and he's tired, worn out, as well as his Pokemon, considering he had a few close calls in the forest around the city before he was finally able to get to the Pokemon Center. Luckily for our exhausted hero, he's able to make it there with no real problems once he makes it inside of the city. This allows him to get a room from the Pokemon Center and have Nurse Joy check up on his Pokemon. Unfortunately though, this is going to give time Ash to think, as now he has time alone, and the only thing that's really on his mind is the thoughts of where his friends are, and more importantly, where Pikachu is. It's now been a week since the sinking of the SS Anne, and Ash hasn't seen any sign of any of them. He thought that since Fuchsia was the closest city to where the boat sank, they all would have arrived here eventually, but those hopes have been dashed as the boy sits alone eating at the Pokemon Center. Ash remains withdrawn in himself with each bite, just thinking about the same thing over and over again. Was there anything he could have done to save Pikachu when the boat went down? What about his friends? Were they even able to survive? But unfortunately, these are all questions that Ash is going to have to hold on to, as the PA system rings notifying him that his other Pokemon are ready. Looking down on his food, Ash realizes that he's barely even eaten half of his plate. He really doesn't have an appetite with all of these worries that are going on. However, he stands up from the table and throws the rest of his food away before heading off to the main reception counter to get his Pokemon from Nurse Joy. Once there, Ash is handing back the 4 Pokeballs, with Nurse Joy telling him that all of his Pokemon appear to be in tip-top shape. He should be very proud, as his Pokemon seem to be well cared for and healthy. The boy simply smiles, thanking the nurse before turning and putting his balls back on his belt and heading to his room for the night. After all the nights of sleeping outside and not really having anybody to keep him company besides his Pokemon or any of Brock's home-cooked meals, Ash is exhausted, and the only thing he wants to do is crash in a nice, soft, warm bed. However, as his head hits the pillow, the boy finds that going to sleep is going to be a little bit tougher than what he thought, as he can't get the thoughts of Pikachu, Misty, or Brock out of his mind. And as the thoughts replay in his head over and over again, the boy slowly does spiral off to sleep, only to have his mind interrupted with dreams of Misty, Pikachu, and Brock, and how he failed them for not being able to rescue them on the SS Anne. This pattern repeats throughout the night, with Ash waking up every so often trying to rid his brain of any of the dreams that he's been having. But unfortunately, as the cycle continues, the sun slowly starts to break over the horizon, and by the time that normal people are up and the center is bustling with all kinds of activity, Ash hasn't had really much sleep at all. 2 hours at max, leaving him looking drained and very irritable. His motivation to do anything is almost zero, and he's even considering staying in the room for the rest of the day to try and get some sleep after his exhausted night. But if he does that, then that means that Ash might miss out on his only chance to actually catch up with Misty, Brock, and Pikachu, as he does have an idea of what he can actually do at the recommendation of Nurse Joy, and that's call around to neighboring Pokemon centers to see if they've seen any signs of his friends. So with that motivation and the energy of only a 10-year-old boy can muster, Ash pulls himself out of bed and gets dressed before heading out to the main lobby of the Pokemon Center. Unfortunately, with the lack of sleep, Ash's perception isn't the best, and he finds himself bumping into a few people in the lobby as he's making his way over to the phones. The boy is so exhausted that he's not even really sidestepping people, just kind of throwing himself into them before pushing past, apologizing for the inconvenience that he just caused, but not really acknowledging the person and turning back to look at them in the eye or anything like that. While most of the people that Ash does this to don't seem to really mind or don't really care about the 10-year-old, the last person that he encounters is going to be somebody that doesn't let this pass, as when Ash bumps into him and says he's sorry, a snarky voice cuts back with a sarcastic tone saying, "Well, well, well, if it isn't the thief." This immediately triggers our hero, which he begins to yell back at the person without even realizing who he's talking to. That is, until Ash decides to actually look this person in the eye, and he realizes that it's his longtime rival, Gary Oak. Once Ash finally clues in that it's the Oak boy he's talking to, he begins to grow quiet for a brief second, causing Gary to ask Ash if he's come this whole way to apologize for the Pokemon he stole. And right there is the button Gary was looking to push, as Ash goes from 0 to 60 in no time, beginning to argue with the boy, telling him that he caught Tornado ran fair and square. It's not his fault that he was slow to the catch, but Gary just reiterates the previous statement, telling Ash that he's a no-good thief, and he'll never be more than that. I bet you don't even have a single gym badge yet. However, Ash aims to prove Gary wrong on one thing, flashing the 3 badges that he was able to capture so far. But the Oak Boy aims to remind Ash that he's below him in every aspect as he flashes his badge case, revealing that he has already earned 6 of the 8 required Kanto gym badges. It's here that Gary begins to laugh. Wow, Ash, you'll always be second place to me. Well, actually, second place is too good for you. You'll always be dead last. As Gary's comment and laughter begin to agitate Ash even more, he pulls out a Pokeball, telling Gary to put his money where his mouth is. Just because he's got more badges than Ash doesn't mean he's a better trainer. This just causes the Oak Boy to laugh even more. Why would I waste my time with a low-level twerp like you? Ash, you are pathetic. Where is that Pikachu that you got from Grandpa? I don't see it anywhere. This is where Ash stops for a second, as he tells Gary that he got separated from Pikachu when the SS Anne sank earlier last week. This just causes Gary to laugh even more, saying that not only is Ash such a bad trainer that he has to steal Pokemon, but he can't even keep track of the Pokemon that he legitimately gets. This causes Gary and Ash to break out in a full-blown argument. That causes everyone in the center to begin to stare at the two. However, just when you think things couldn't get worse, they do, as another old familiar rival of Ash's shows up in the form of Damien. And the boy doesn't pull no punches, telling Gary that he's reduced himself to arguing with Ash of all people. Come on, he knows that he's better than that. However, the Oak Boy just reminds Damien that he was the one who won their battle earlier today, so he best not be talking too much smack before Gary has to put him in his place again. Well, Gary, even though I think that battle was mine, you just pulled a fast one at the end, I still have to say that I think it's below you to battle somebody with such weak Pokemon like Ash here. I mean, after all, he took my Charmander, who couldn't even win a single gym badge. That thing was pathetic, so I don't even know why you would want to try and challenge any of the Pokemon that he has. Both Gary and Damien carry on in conversation about Ash talking poorly about him while the boy just looks on, and it's like they don't even remember that he's here, as they don't acknowledge him one bit. This whole action causes Ash's rage to begin to build, and with his combined lack of sleep, he has no temperance as he pulls out 2 Pokemon, challenging them both to a Pokemon battle. This is where Gary just smirks, telling Ash that a battle with him is below Gary. So he's gonna have to pass, as he wouldn't want to confuse his Pokemon by battling somebody that's weaker than them or dumber than them, for lack of a better word. Ash begins to get riled up again and starts to argue with Gary. However, Damien chimes in here, saying that he would gladly battle Ash, so that way he can show him just how pathetic he really is. Ash happily accepts this, looking to put Damien in his place and show Gary that he's not the pathetic trainer that he thinks he is. Gary is so amused by this outcome that he decides that he's going to stick around and watch, as he could use a little bit of entertainment before he heads off to the next city for his next gym badge. Now excited that he's going to get a chance to put both of his rivals in their place, Ash tells them let's head outside to the Pokemon battlefield behind the Pokemon Center. That way they can get this started, and he can embarrass them both. As Ash begins to walk off leading the way, this just leaves Gary and Damien chuckling behind him at the audacity of Ash. There's no way he has any chance to stand up to either one of them, and Damien has a special purpose for this battle, and it's solely to embarrass Ash and what he perceives as his pathetic Pokemon. As Ash and his 2 rivals make it outside to the battlefield, we switch perspectives from a lone onlooker that's been sleeping outside of the center, waiting for Ash to come outside, and that's the Bulbasaur that was at the Fuchsia gym. It's been waiting out here all night for Ash, but why, we don't quite know yet. As we shift perspective back over to the boys, as Ash stands across from Damien on the battlefield with his first Pokeball in his hand. Since they don't have a referee, Gary decides to be the impartial ref for this match, telling that both trainers will be allowed substitutions and this will be a 2-on-2 battle. They are free to start whenever they have their first Pokemon selections ready. This is where Ash wastes no time, as he already has his first choice. Charmander, I choose you! The Fire Lizard pops from the ball, as Ash wants to show Damien just how strong it's become since he became its trainer, while Damien wastes no time in sending in the rival to Charmander, his fully evolved Primeape. As the Eternal Rage Monkey pops from its ball, it lets out a battle cry that's hard enough to cause Charmander to shiver a little bit. Ash notices this, but tells his Fire Lizard not to be intimidated by it. They can win. He believes in it. This causes Damien to laugh excessively, telling Ash that no matter what kind of trust he has in Charmander, it will be severely misplaced, and he is about to prove it right now, as he orders Primeape in with a karate chop. The Pig Monkey takes no time in closing the distance between the two as it plans to slam its fist right into the head of Charmander. However, Ash is quick quick on the draw, ordering the Fire Lizard to counter with the Metal Claw. While this move is actually at a disadvantage when it comes to fighting types, it is enough to stave off the Karate Chop from Primeape, causing Damien and the Pig Monkey to take a second look at this, thinking that there's no way that Charmander could have staved off their attack. So, wanting to turn on the pressure, Damien decides to go with a little bit more power, ordering Primeape to fire off a Brick Break. Once again, the fire type proves that it has a superior speed, and now it's going to prove that it has the superior power, as once again it tries to slam its fist to the top of Charmander's head, to which it's met with the counter of a Metal Claw. But unfortunately, the increased power of this move is going to prove to be too much for the steel type attack, allowing the Brick Break to slam right through it and knock Charmander in its head, sending it careening towards the ground. Both Damien and Primeape stand there laughing over their opponents, saying that they never had a chance to begin with, as Charmander lay cratered at the fighting type's feet. Ash calls to Charmander. He knows that it has more in the tank. He knows that the Fire Lizard can do better than this. It has no reason to believe what Damien or Primeape say. Hearing the call from its trainer, Charmander slowly begins to stir as it pulls itself out of the hole that Primeape had created for it. This actually kind of impresses Damien, as Charmander could never do that before, but he would never say that to Ash. After all, this has to be just another fluke. So he decides to turn on the heat, as he orders Primeape in with the Fury attack. The Pig Monkey wastes no time, not even giving Charmander a chance to stand up completely before it's on the attack again, swiping at the Fire Lizard multiple times, causing the damage to stack up a little more with each pass. However, there's something that Damien and Primeape are acutely unaware of, as with each hit that Charmander takes, its tail flame slowly begins to grow brighter and brighter and brighter. However, they're not the only ones that are unaware of this, as Ash also is completely oblivious. The only person that seems to be noticing is Gary, of all people. And just as he decides to try and lay a warning to Damien about what's going to happen, the fruits of all of the damage that Charmander just took begins to bear, as the tail flame of the Fire Lizard begins to erupt with an intense flame. Not really understanding what's going on, Ash decides to use this to his advantage, as it's distracted Primeape by calling for a fire spin in hopes of ending this. As a vortex of flames encircles Primeape, Ash is feeling pretty good about this attack, and it seems like the duo may have won, and Charmander is feeling pretty confident as well. But unfortunately for the duo, this momentary lapse in their guard is going to be what costs them, as Primeape emerges from the fire tornado with a Brick Break that slams Charmander in the head once again, cratering the Fire Lizard, but this time for good. While Primeape is a little singed, it's still able to fight, to where Charmander is completely unconscious with spirals in its eyes laying at the feet of the Pokemon. Ash is forced to call his fire starter, unsure of who to go with next, as he was sure that Charmander would be the one to be able to beat Primeape. He's only got one choice, and he needs to make it count. He needs to go with someone small, someone that can possibly squeeze in and out of tight spaces, avoiding these powerful attacks of Primeape. And he also wants to show Gary just how good he is at raising the Pokemon that Gary couldn't catch, as he declares, "Nidoran, I choose you!" The pint-sized poison type pops from the ball as it readies itself for a battle. With all the time that it and Ash have spent together lately, it's feeling more and more confident by the day, and even though Primeape is much bigger than it, Nidoran is ready to take it on. However, this just gets Damien and Primeape to laugh more intensely, as this is an even more pathetic choice than what Charmander was, with Damien stating so, telling Ash that he really is a noob trainer. There's no way this pipsqueak of a Pokemon stands a chance against Primeape. Meanwhile, Gary just stands there quiet, kinda eager to see what the poison type can do under the tutelage of Ash. And this is where our hero tells Damien not to underestimate his Pokemon, as he gives the command to start this battle, ordering a double kick. Damien thinks this is going to be a cakewalk, and he orders Primeape to use a Brick Break to counter the double kick. However, Ash has his number here, as he's going to learn Primeape's attack patterns, ordering Nidoran to use its first kick to stave off the Brick Break, allowing it to land its small leg squarely in the fighting type's gut with its second pass around. As Nidoran lands in front of Primeape, Ash tells Damien that the only pathetic one here is him. There's no reason why he should talk bad about anybody's Pokemon. Just because his Nidoran's small doesn't mean that it can't do the job, and he fully believes in it. This causes the blue-haired boy to become a bit agitated at the situation, only for him, Ash, and Gary to all be caught into a surprise, as Nidoran, seemingly responding to Ash's belief in it, begins to glow in evolutionary light. Before anyone can say anything, the poison type takes on its second, more aggressive and powerful form, Nidorina. Not wanting to be made a fool of here, Damien orders Primeape back in with another Brick Break. However, Ash is going to counter this quickly, telling Nidorina to use a double kick. The new increase in power that the poison type has received allows it to not only knock the Brick Break back with its first kick, but it sends Primeape's attack right back at him, as its own fist smacks him in the face before it's met with both of the feet of Nidorina, dropping the fighting type and ending the battle for Primeape. Damien can't believe what he just watched. He actually lost to Ash. This will not be something that he he allows to go unpunished, as he recalls his strongest Pokemon. Staring at Ash and its newly evolved Nidorina, he has a plan that's going to turn his whole strategy on its head as he readies a Pokeball declaring, "Muck, I choose you!" The purple blob monster emerges from its Pokeball, and as Ash has encountered this briefly before, he's feeling pretty confident in his ability to battle one. However, this is where he's going to find out that he is sorely mistaken, as with the next round starting, he decides to stick with old reliable and ordering a double kick, to which Nidorina happily obliges by charging straight into the gut of Muck, launching both of its feet in order to cause as much damage as possible. However, this is where Ash finds out exactly why Damien chose Muck, as the goo monster begins to expand itself, absorbing the kicks from Nidorina, and as each blow loses its power, Muck slowly encases Nidorina with his body. The last thing Ash hears is the cries of the poison type, before Muck slowly engulfs it. All three trainers watch as Nidorina struggles to get free at the command of its trainer, with Ash ordering double kick after double kick, but to no avail, until Nidorina slowly loses consciousness due to the lack of air, before Muck recedes off of it and Gary declaring Damien the winner. Ash is a bit upset, but he wastes no time in recalling Nidorina before running back inside of the Pokemon Center to get both it and Charmander looked at. This just leaves Damien and Gary standing there, while Damien is smug about his win, gloating that there's no way Ash could have beat him. Gary isn't in such of a upbeat mood, as he simply walks off with Damien asking where he's going, but the boy just tells Damien that he'll smell him later. After all, he doesn't hang out with losers, considering he did lose a Pokemon to Ash in a battle. This just leaves the boy there standing with his giant goo monster, unsure of what just happened and if him and Gary are actually friends or rivals or enemies. Now we shift perspective to Ash as he's inside of the Pokemon Center, awaiting for Nurse Joy to call him about Charmander and Nidorina. However, this is where the boy is left to his own thoughts as he begins to break down, thinking about Misty, Brock, Pikachu, Gary, and Damien, and what they said to him. Ash puts his head in the palm of his hands as he slowly begins sobbing, but this is immediately interrupted when he gets a call over the loudspeaker that his Pokemon are ready. But that's not the only thing, as Nurse Joy says that there's somebody here that's been looking for him, and over the intercom, Ash can hear a very familiar voice, to which the boy thinks to himself, it can't be. Rushing over to the front counter, Ash sees the redhead that he's been thinking about this entire time that they've been separated. "Misty, are you okay?" Ash yells. But before the redhead can respond, Ash immediately begins to bombard her with other questions. Have you seen Pikachu? Have you seen Brock? Is everyone okay? What happened after the SSN? It's at the point that Ash is asking so many questions that Misty is beginning to grow irritated, and to calm him down and get his attention, the redhead decides to plant a fist upside his head, finally getting the boy to quiet down to ask what's her problem, to which the redhead yells that he won't stop asking questions before she gets a chance to answer one. He's on to the next one. So why don't we just start with one at a time, instead of being berated by everyone that you have running through your mind? "Sorry," Ash says as he rubs his cheek. The boy begins by asking if Misty's alright, to which the redhead confirms. He then asks if she's seen Pikachu or Brock, but Misty hasn't seen hide or nor hair of Brock, but she tells Ash that he should come with her as he needs to go see Pikachu. This is where the boy gets excited that Misty has actually found his starter. However, as he follows her deep into the Pokemon Center, Ash realizes that Misty's tone is a somber one. As they come to the IC unit, and as Nurse Joy pushes open the door, Ash sees the reason why the tone has shifted. It's because Pikachu is laying unconscious in one of the beds. Rushing to his side, Ash asks what Misty did to Pikachu. However, the redhead smacks him upside the head again, reminding him that she is his friend, and she would never hurt the electric mouse. "Sorry," Ash says. "I was just so worried. Do you know what happened?" The redhead goes on to explain that when the SSN went down, she used her water Pokemon to stay afloat. She spent 3 days out on the water, and while she was looking for land, she spent all that time looking for Pikachu, Ash, and Brock to find no sign of them. And when she finally made landfall, that's when she ran into Pikachu. It was laying unconscious on the beach, being attacked by some Grimer. So she used her water Pokemon to rescue the electric mouse before rushing it to Fuchsia City, and she's been here ever since, waiting for it to wake up. This is where Ash asks how long Misty has been here, to which the redhead confirms that they've been here for about 4 days. Ash turns to Pikachu and rubs it on its head. "Come on, buddy. I need you to wake up. I can't continue our Pokemon journey without you," as tears begin to well up in his eyes. This brief act is enough to get the electric mouse that's been catatonic for the last couple of days to start to stir, as it cracks an eyelid and lets out a brief cry of its name, acknowledging Ash's voice. All the while, from outside the window that that looks into the room that Rogue Bulbasaur has been watching the entire interaction. And this is where we're going to leave things for now. So tell me, how did you feel about this part? How did you feel about the rivalry between Damien, Gary, and Ash and how it's turning out so far? What did you think about Ash's newest evolution in Nidorina, responding to the boy and his belief in her? And what's the deal with this Bulbasaur, and why does it seem to be so fixated on Ash and his Pokemon? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Okay, trainers, I hope you have your Pokédexes ready, because today we met Nidorina. And that's all we had for today's video. I really appreciate you guys stopping by to watch all the way to the end, and I just wanted to say thank you for that. If you guys really enjoy my content, consider following me on some of my other platforms like Discord, where you can get to know other people who are interested in what ifs, or on Twitter, where I post sometimes behind the scenes updates. Or if you want to help the channel grow a little bit extra, why don't you consider donating like the people right here have, as whatever you could offer could help us get to a larger audience by helping us get new videos done, or some of the projects that we've been working. Custom art is getting kind of expensive, so we want to make sure that we have the funds to do that. But with all that being said, I really hope you guys enjoyed everything, and I will see you in the next video.